October 2024 footage known as the Pine Hollow recording. Now, if you've heard the rumors, you know the debate on this one is incredibly fierce. I mean, is this the most elaborate, perfectly executed modern hoax, or is it actual documentation of something truly unexplainable? Today, we're stripping away all that internet noise and looking strictly at the data, the timeline, and the raw recovered footage to see what we can figure out together.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. 3 friends, a buried camera, one massive unsolved mystery. That is the chilling reality of what this recovered tape actually shows. We're going to walk through this evidence exactly as it unfolds in the source material, step by step. Because what starts off as just a completely mundane camping trip really quickly unravels into a psychological and physical nightmare. And we're going to trace exactly how and when that shift happens.
So, let's get the clinical facts straight first. The date is October 14th, 2024. The location? The super remote Pine Hollow Forest out in Colorado. Our group is made up of 3 college friends, Ethan, Ryan, and Chloe. And look, the only reason we know literally anything about their trip is because of the main piece of evidence we're analyzing today, a heavily damaged camera. It was actually found buried beneath a fallen tree a full 6 months after they went into those woods.
All right, looking at the timeline, things start out, well, incredibly normal. Day 1, afternoon, they arrive and start hiking. You hear birds. Ethan is joking around calling them 3 idiots lost in the woods. We've all been on trips exactly like that, right? By 8:17 p.m., they've set up camp near this narrow stream. They're eating dinner, telling ghost stories, completely ordinary stuff. But then, exactly 20 minutes later, at 8:37 p.m., the tape captures the very first anomaly.
And here is where it gets genuinely terrifying. It's the sensory detail the mic picks up. This isn't just a branch snapping in the wind. It's this strange metallic sound. It sounds like heavy chains dragging across stone. The group just goes dead silent. At first, they try to laugh it off as an animal, but 20 minutes later, it's back, and it's way closer. Ethan shines his flashlight out into the trees, and the visual shows an entirely empty forest. But the audio, it keeps going. Slow, rhythmic, almost deliberate, like something massive is just circling their camp in the pitch black.
Which brings us to the morning of day 2, and this bizarre escalation. Look at night 1. The trees around the camp are totally normal, completely untouched. But overnight, every single surrounding tree gets marked. Chloe points out this strange symbol carved into the bark. It's a circle with lines extending outward. And it's not just one tree, guys, it's all of them. Meaning while these 3 slept, something or someone was meticulously carving up the woods right outside their tent.
Now, factor in the psychological tool. By 2:34 p.m. on the second day, the footage shows a severe shift in the vibe of the group. Ryan starts complaining that they're being watched. The camera keeps catching him snapping his head around, looking behind trees, just scanning these completely empty trails. The others kind of chuckle at him, but Ryan doesn't laugh back. He's genuinely visibly terrified. You can feel the atmosphere shift from this fun getaway to just absolute creeping paranoia. And you know what? That paranoia is entirely validated on the second night. The camera timestamp reads exactly 1:12 a.m. Ethan jolts awake, and the microphone picks up a super clear audio track right outside the thin nylon of their tent. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Just these slow, heavy footsteps actively pacing around them in the dark. The tension on the recording right here is honestly palpable. You can hear Chloe whisper, "Don't go outside." It's this desperate, breathy warning in total darkness. The 3 of them are just frozen, listening, and then the footsteps suddenly stop. Dead silence. And then it happens. A human voice emerges from the dark outside. It's barely a whisper, but it is undeniable. It just says one word: Ethan. And that detail is so unsettling because, logically, there is absolutely no reason for anyone out in that remote wilderness to know his exact name. So Ethan bravely unzips the tent, shines his light out, and sweeps the trees. And again, nothing. No person, no animal, just the dark. But then Ryan notices something horrifying. The camera zooms in. Those symbols from the morning, they've been changed. They're now fresh, deeply gouged and actively modified. Something was literally right there, carving into the wood mere seconds ago while they hid inside. So, morning of day 3 hits and they nope right out of there. They pack up to leave immediately. And think about how much we trust our tech when we're lost, right? Well, they hike for hours,
Ethan is strictly following the digital GPS. He's strictly following a physical magnetic compass. And yet, as the sun starts going down, they end up directly back at that exact same narrow stream, the exact same campsite, surrounded by the exact same carved trees. They walked in a perfect, mathematically impossible circle. They are totally trapped.
This forces them to spend a third and final night out in the woods. And this right here is the climax of the footage. The timestamp reads 3:07 a.m. This is where the camera captures the absolute most disturbing visual evidence of the entire recovered tape.
The flashlight beam cuts through the trees and, for just a second, illuminates a figure standing in the woods. Looking at this clinically, the physical traits on tape are just wrong. The figure is tall, extremely thin, it is completely motionless. The light catches pale skin, disproportionately long arms, and this really unnatural smile. And then, literally a frame later, it's gone. It doesn't run, it doesn't duck, it just impossibly vanishes from the shot.
And that is the breaking point for Ryan. Absolute panic sets in. He just snaps, grabs the camera, and bolts into the dark woods. The footage goes completely chaotic. You see branches violently whipping against the lens. The audio is totally blown out by the sound of Ryan's heavy, terrified breathing as he's sprinting blindly through the brush. But then, right over the sound of his breathing, the mic picks up something else. Footsteps right behind him, and they are easily matching his frantic pace through the dark.
The auditory tension here is off the charts. Those heavy footfalls behind him are rapidly closing the gap. You can literally hear whatever is chasing him getting closer and closer and closer.
In a total panic move, Ryan suddenly whips the camera around behind him, and for less than a single second, a face fills the frame. It's heavily blurred, distorted, really hard to make out clearly, but it absolutely does not look human. Ryan screams, and the recording violently cuts to black.
But wait, because the tape doesn't actually end there. Exactly 6 hours later, the camera inexplicably powers back on. It's just lying abandoned in the dirt, pointing straight up into the forest canopy. For almost 2 full minutes, there is dead silence. Nothing. And then, a distinct shadow slowly crosses the lens, completely blocking out the sky. And in the final second,
A voice leans down and whispers directly into the mic. Still watching? And right after that, the camera shuts off permanently.
So, what about the aftermath? Because this brings us back to the stark reality of the case. Ethan was actually found. They picked him up wandering a highway 30 miles away from Pine Hollow, but he has complete amnesia about those last 2 days. Ryan and Chloe? They were never found. And the official stance from the local police is super dismissive. They claim the whole footage is just an elaborate hoax.
But here is the concrete forensic fact that really shatters that simple hoax theory for a lot of people. Audio experts ran the raw tape, and they confirmed that the final whispered voice at the end was absolutely not added in post-production. It's authentic to the raw file. Plus, the camera was dug up exactly where the recording stopped, deep in a part of Pine Hollow that locals literally refused to set foot in after dark.
Which leaves us with this massive, lingering question. Are we looking at a masterful, highly coordinated digital hoax? Or does this footage prove that something unexplainable and maybe incredibly dangerous is still watching and waiting out in those woods? Thank you so much for exploring this case file with me today, and keep questioning what you see.
Subscribe this channel for more interesting videos.